Oh, that's one of my top reasons why I like working.
Oh, that's
because
great.
you find a lot of businesses are male dominated.
Yes, of course.
So it's nice to have someone who is running her own business, who is her own what's that word I'm looking for?
Independent.
Yeah, she's very independent. She's always looking for innovative things to do.
Awesome.
And that's really inspiring to have so close to me.
Great.
That was one of Saffron Spot's employees talking about how their experiences working under Smita Vasant, the CEO of Saffron Spot, an ice cream place in Artesia, California. I sat down with Smita to discuss the ins and outs of the ice cream industry, as well as how she used her love for her Indian culture with her love for nutrition. Smita's success lies in the answers to two questions. Does degree always define your career, or does passion always persevere?
We specialize in ice creams that are Indian style. Of course, because I'm from India, it has, Indian influences or Indian spices, and then a few other desserts and a few snacks as well.
Okay. So working in Artesia, which is a heavily dominated place with a lot of Indian restaurants, how would you say that you have been able to compete, especially as a woman-owned business?
I think it's our product. We have a unique product that's high quality and it's different, and there's no other Indian, restaurants or snack bars here that have our kind of ice cream. So I think that's kind of been the main factor to stand out.
Okay. So did you create this business on your own?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
So how was the process behind all of that?
So before I got into this, I have my master's in industrial psychology.
Oh, wow.
So I was working in consulting for an international consulting maker that I found on sale somewhere. And so I started creating these ice cream flavors at home. Being from India, I had these exotic ice cream flavors that I was creating. And so people used to love the combinations I put together.
Oh.
And so one of my friends said, why don't you start supplying to Indian stores? And I thought, why not? And so that's how I kind of got started in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's a long road.
Yeah. So that's great. You took a passion of yours and you made it into a business.
Right.
But it wasn't necessarily your initial career pathway.
Right. Not at all. Yeah.
So a lot of women that I've been talking to, for example, I talked to a pharmacist, they went into pharmacy and then they ended up starting their own pharmacy. Mm-hmm. So you didn't go into any type of food background. Yeah, you were so successful in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, so I actually always wanted to go in the food background.
Oh.
Yeah, since I was, I think, your age.
Oh.
But at the time when growing up in India, my mom wanted me to pursue a more traditional career.
I see.
And so I ended up I wanted to do nutrition. I don't know, I've always been interested in that. And so I went along the more traditional career path, but then somehow your passion is always there in the back of your mind, and then at some point it just happens and you pursue it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So do you have a family, like a husband, kids?
Yeah, I have a husband and I have 2 daughters, so they're older and they're on their own.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long ago did you start this business?
I started ice cream in 2001.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's been almost 19
years ago. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
First few years though, I was supplying directly to restaurants, so I kind of did it from home and worked out of a different factory. But then 2005 we opened this Saffron Spot. Yeah.
So how did your family handle you just completely changing your career pathway?
They were fine.
Oh, that's great.
They were fine. I mean, my daughters used to help me pack ice cream. So then we were selling ice cream in like the melas and stuff over here. So they would help me with that.
That's great. That's great. So what would you have said to the Smita Vasant who was applying to colleges for your degree that you have now? Would you tell her don't pursue that and just go straight to nutrition, or no?
Wow, that's hard to say. Of course, I would have loved to do nutrition, and I think if I pursued my passion at the time, maybe I might have been in a different place.
Oh, okay.
Because you get an earlier start in what you're doing. And this is not necessarily nutrition, but that's still at the back of my mind, because like the ice cream, I I make is not overly high in fat,
Right.
kind of keeping that in mind. So
Oh.
yeah, it's hard to say, but I definitely think going through my background that I did gives me a different perspective on business. So
Okay.
yeah, it's worked out.
That's great. So, coming from Indian background, would you have said that you had that that patriarchal domination in the back of your mind, since the business world, and especially the small business world, is still dominated by male figures?
I mean, definitely exists.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's harder as a woman.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. But
Do you have any specific circumstances that you can recall where you were like, if I was a man, this would have been a much easier process?
Yeah, I think even like when marketing your business, or let's say opening doors,
Yeah.
I think people take men seriously, I feel still, and
Yeah.
they don't necessarily take women seriously.
Okay.
So I think that's definitely been a problem. Even in the beginning when I've approached restaurants or, stores.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you have any advice for any aspiring female entrepreneurs that want to start their own business like you did?
Definitely. I think one of the things is to stay persistent and
Okay.
kind of not give up easily. I see not just in business, but in so many things, people give up way too easily. Even for working out, like they go to the gym for like 3 days and
Yeah.
then they give up because they haven't lost weight. Similar to that, business is the same.
Yeah.
It's something that there's a lot of ups and downs. You don't always succeed in everything you do. You usually fail many times in the beginning in things
Yeah.
you do, but you just have to keep going, and you have to have that passion. If you have passion for doing what you're doing, I think you're definitely much more likely to stay on track.
Okay.
Like, let's say if I go into real estate, I
Yeah.
don't like real estate. I have nothing to do with real estate. If
Yeah.
I was doing that, I would have probably left years ago.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. It's like you have to stay on track. You have to have that passion to stay on track. But
Okay.
persistence really is the key.
Okay. I also know that a lot of people try to get into small business because they know in the long run it makes more money. So they should not be in it for the money. They should be in it for
Definitely
Okay.
not, because if anything, I think it doesn't make more money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's, almost better to work. I mean, of course, you have the freedom and everything of small business, but it's nice to work for somebody else, just get a paycheck and go
That's
home.
true. Sometimes
Small
it is.
business is not as glamorous as you think it might be, because there's a lot of things you end up doing that you don't really like doing or that you weren't made for doing. Like, let's say keeping books or certain things. I don't like doing it, and I just want to do the creative aspect of
Right,
it. But
right.
I don't necessarily like doing all that work that I'm forced to do,
Right.
because it's a small business. You kind of have to do everything. So
That's true. Did you, since this has been an idea in your head since 2001, have you ever had plans of expanding?
it's always there. It's always a dream to
Mhm.
expand. I mean, fortunately, the business has grown steadily, but expanding also means it takes up a lot of time. There's a lot more energy involved. So, I haven't actually opened another store. Of course, we've had many opportunities or been asked or things like that. It's just due to lack of, just lack of time, really,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's hard to do too much, because
It's true.
I'd rather take small steps rather
Yeah.
than take some big steps and then not make it.
Of course.
So,
I know I've been a fan of this spot since I was little. I remember I'd come at like 5 or 6. I would finish eating at one of the other restaurants in this complex, and I would beg my mom to come over here so I could have like a Faluda drink. That's my favorite drink ever. So do you find that you've been able to capture a lot of the more of the younger generations that haven't grown up in India but still want to be in touch with their Indian culture?
Yeah, definitely. Our most popular ice cream actually in the young kids is rose.
Oh, that's
yeah,
nice. Yeah.
which really is not a very typical flavor that you get everywhere before you
course.
ate it here, right?
Right.
Yeah, and many moms would tell me that our kids didn't want to come to Artesia before, but since you open now, they want to come to
Oh,
Artesia.
that's a really
because
great
they
thing
can
to
try
hear.
your ice cream. So yeah,
course.
definitely.
And since this is like a restaurant industry, you don't really have an age group that you're really targeting. Is it more of like a ethnicity, more Indian, Desi?
More, yeah, because we are here in this area, but really anybody and everybody comes here. Like
Oh,
we
that's
have
great.
lots of people, looking for that exotic taste that they come here to try
Of course.
Indian food. So we get everybody.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
all ethnicities, but primarily Indian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you have said to the Smita Vasant like 5 years ago when she was still running this business? Maybe you had a little bit more struggles than you do now. What would you have said to her?
Just keep doing what you're doing and enjoy it.
Okay.
And I mean, which I've always done anyway.
That's
so I've
good.
really enjoyed creating all the different
Right.
ice creams. Yeah.
I know you said that small businesses are hard, and I completely agree. So has there ever been a point where, you were at a lower point running this business and you were just like, I want to go back to just working for someone else and I'm tired of, with all this that it
Of course,
requires?
that happens from time to time,
Right.
but I really can't say any time that I've been like really frustrated. No,
Okay.
that hasn't
That's
happened
good.
because I think basically I love creating ice creams and it's fun for me when people are enjoying what I've created, that they're eating the ice cream.
Yeah,
So I think the process is such, I've really enjoyed it.
that's
So
great.
yeah, but time to time, you feel that, working is so much better than having
Yeah.
your own business.
That's
But,
true.
Yeah.
So I know you talked about it briefly at the beginning of how you got to where you are today, but could you give me a little bit more details on the way from buying your own ice cream maker, making ice cream, selling to other restaurants, to opening your own, ice cream place that has like dozens of ice creams on stock for all the people coming in to taste and try?
So when I first made ice cream at home and people liked it, when someone said to me, why don't you supply? I really had no concept of like, how am I going to do it?
Right.
I know I'm not going to be making ice cream at home to do it because my machine only makes like 10 cups at a time,
Yeah.
right? So it's just that whole process of finding out on how to go about doing things. But at that time, I think internet was fairly new,
Yeah.
so but still there was a lot you could find online.
Yes.
So that's kind of how I went about doing it. And the other thing is I did go to Small Business Association. It's called
okay.
SCORE, and it's part of the city that you live in. The
Mhm.
city or the counties have that program. So I went and approached them for advice. They always give you great advice. And then just kind of trying to find your own way, talking to people.
Okay.
And sometimes you think that, I think our Indian mentality is such to not tell anybody what you're doing, right? Like
yeah.
that. But in fact, I found quite the opposite. I think if you tell people what you're doing, there's always somebody who's going to help you get somewhere to do something.
Okay.
So I've kind of had that good of an experience in the sense, I knew I wanted to make ice cream somewhere, but I didn't know where I was going to make it. And so I was talking to a friend of mine and saying, I want to make it somewhere. I don't know where or how to find it.
Right.
And she says, oh, there's an ice cream place down the street, and I know they don't make their ice cream. Somebody else makes it for them. So let me go and ask them who makes it for them.
Okay.
So she went and found out for me who made the ice cream.
Mhm.
And then I approached the same company that made their ice cream. So
Oh.
it's just like, I feel the more you talk to, there's advice that you can get and learn from other people.
Okay. That's
So
great.
I think
That's
that's
great.
been really helpful for me. And even still, brainstorming is always good. I have a few friends that I can always call and say, hey, what do you think I should do? Or,
Oh.
yeah, my husband always has some ideas. And so,
That's great.
yeah.
So I know that every ice cream store has the typical, vanilla chocolate, and you have your unique thing about Saffron Spot is having that exotic taste like rose and butterscotch. But do you ever feel the pressure to like create more and making yourself even more unique and more established?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like many times people ask, okay, what's new? What's new? What's new? But then
Right.
yet at the same time, when they come, they still want the old. Like
Right.
they still want the ones, saffron and pistachio, mango, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's always more than pressure. It's like an excitement to create something new.
Okay.
But I feel like the old sells really well. And I think I still want to keep, I know there's a lot of things out in the market, like, vegan ice cream or things that are unusual combinations like basil lemon or those kind of
Right,
stuff.
of
But
course.
I don't know, I feel like I still want to keep to the core of what it is, which is Indian flavors, Indian spices. And anytime I try to make something really weird and exotic, like out of the ordinary, it doesn't necessarily, I mean, it could be an excitement for a little bit, but I think
Right.
people still go back to those traditional flavors that it's sort of comfortable with.
Okay, of course,
Yeah,
of course.
so.
So would you say you have a kind of a returner consumer base?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had kids like you
Oh.
coming from since they're like 2-3 years old,
Oh.
and they're 15, 16.
Yeah.
They're still coming here.
Awesome.
Yeah, 18. Yeah.
That's great. That's
Lots
great.
of kids.
So, okay, what do you look for in employees? I saw when I met you that you had 3 employees working really hard inside. So, do you look for employees that have similar passions that you do? I know some businesses even start out as like an incubator for aspiring, professionals in whatever field that they're doing. So
Right.
would you say?
What I like to first thing look for an employee is a good attitude, because
Okay.
I feel like that's then that they're cheerful, because it's like that can get you through the worst of things.
Right.
So if they have a good attitude and they're willing to work hard, if qualification obviously is not a requirement here, and we know they're all going to go on to do better things, which
Right.
of course is what I want to do, kind of
course.
have it be a training ground. But mostly I think really look for is good attitude, cheerfulness, hard work, and ability to help people.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And since you are an ice cream spot, there are other, like obviously bigger chain franchises of ice cream, and like how you were mentioning new trends in ice cream. You did have an interest in nutrition. Do you try to keep your ice cream healthier than the national average ice cream, I would say?
Yeah, so for a premium ice cream, for an ice cream to be called premium ice cream, it has to have a certain fat content in it.
Right.
But to me, that fat content is too much.
Okay.
Like, I can't eat ice cream that's so high, because anything that's high fat you can eat, but only so much.
Right.
So I try to keep that fat content in mind and have a lower fat content ice cream. So I guess healthier in that aspect, if you look for. And then as I try to keep it as natural as possible. Doesn't mean everything is natural, but
Right.
where I can get a natural alternative, like let's say mango, then of course I'll try to put real mango in it versus flavors in it.
Right.
So it's there at the back of my mind. It's
Okay.
not always possible 100% of
Right.
the time, but yeah.
That's good. That's the reality of
Right.
it, of course.
Right.
And how would you say you specifically compete with, the bigger chain brands like Haagen-Dazs and, Thrifty, the ice cream stores, stuff, things like that? How would you say you were?
So because of our flavors,
Right.
is exotic, typically Indian, and even I try to create other flavors with the same Indian spices in mind. So I think that's how we differ. I know you've probably tried ice cream in big chains.
Yeah.
Somehow I feel it doesn't taste the same. I really think
Right.
ours tastes better.
Of course.
And as far as other mass-produced ice cream, that's what it is. It's like, certain brands are going to be really good, certain brands not so good, but you just have to find your niche and kind of stay there, I think.
Of course. Thank you so much for participating in this interview. Everyone should check out Saffron Spot in Artesia. It's a really, really great ice cream restaurant.